What's going on YouTube? Today I'm going to show you how to make what I'm calling traveling cheese board. So there's actually two pieces held together with magnets. They open up and you got all your charcuterie stuff held in place with magnets. Got a nice little cutting board on top. Again, goes right in place with magnets. So let's get started. Alright, using a couple different types of wood here. This is some white ash, also using some mahogany and some walnut. Some of my pieces are just kind of rough cut from the sawmill, so starting out running the planer, the joiner, and trying to get everything smooth and dimensional. Now that I got everything flat with a straight edge, I'm ripping everything on the table saw. You want to cut these so that when you glue everything together, the board is about 2.5 inches tall. If you do any shorter, you're going to run into some problems. Speaking of problems, you can see I need a new saw blade, as it really hates this walnut right now. And here we are, all done. So after ripping everything on the table saw, I'm feeding all the pieces through this belt sander, doing a couple passes on each side, just making sure everything's smooth and perfectly flat so it glues up better. Now it's glue up time, just using some standard wood glue. Got a silicone brush I'm using to paint everything on. Got some trash bags underneath just to try to contain some of the mess. And once we get everything glued up, I'm going to go ahead and clamp everything together and go from there. Next day, taking off some clamps. I used some longer clamps here so I could do two pieces at once. Put some plastic in between the two pieces just so they didn't get stuck together. Okay, back to the planer, running each board through, basically until it's flat on each side. This takes several passes for each one here. Once everything's flat, back to the table saw, just trimming off all these ends, trying to make everything even. You could use a miter box or a chop saw as well for this. Okay, now comes the part where I saw these directly in half on my bandsaw and hope I don't screw everything up. So after running everything through the planer, my boards are about 2.25 inches thick. I am sawing these so that one side is 1.25 inch thick and the other is 1 inch thick. You want the bottom to be at least 1.25 inches, otherwise you're not going to have room to route out everything from the bottom. Alright, I'm back to the planer once again. All I'm trying to do is just get rid of those saw marks on the bandsaw. So I'm trying to take just as little material off as possible. You could also feed these through a belt sander if you have one, which will probably take less material off, but this is a lot quicker, so that's why I'm doing this. Alright, now I'm tracing everything onto my bottom piece. Like I said, these bottom pieces, you want to make sure you got at least 1.25 inches, otherwise you might run into some problems on routing out everything. I did this board first, I did the other two afterwards, and I did those ones a little differently, and I'll explain that in just a moment. So for this first one, I routed out basically the entire thing by hand. I started out with a small 1/8 inch bit just to make a little bit of an outline, then moved on to I think a 1/4 inch bit and finished everything up from there. So this was an entire hour of routering. If you got a CNC or a laser that could do this, that might be the better option. Now I'm using a small Forester bit just to make room for my magnets that are going to hold everything in. I'll try to put a link in the description for the ones that I used. Alright, so here are these other two I got traced on, and I was trying to avoid hours of routering, so came up with an idea, and basically I'm using a drill bit on a press and clearing out most of the area, and then going in afterwards and kind of just cleaning it up with the router from there. And now that that's finally done, I'm taking all the boards and running all the edges along this router table, just kind of giving everything a nice clean looking edge. Moving on to sanding, this doesn't need a lot of explanation. I am going up to 400 grit. Takes a little bit of finesse and a Dremel tool to sand all those spots that we routered out though. Here I am marking where I'm going to put the magnets and washers just to hold the two pieces together. I'm just doing an inch in from each side. Alright, drilling our holes for the magnets and the washers. On the top pieces here, I'm putting washers, and on the bottom pieces, I'm putting in the magnets. And here are the bottom pieces, putting all the magnets in place, using some stainless steel screws just to hold everything down. And we are finally coming to an end, putting on some rubber feet at the bottom of these trays, and then wipe it down with some mineral oil, and then buff in some Bodie's oil after that. If you like what you saw, consider liking and subscribing. And if you'd like one of these trays, I'll leave a link in the description to the website, and they'll be available for purchase there, along with all sorts of other stuff I make. Thanks!